In today's Demystifying Proposals video, we talk about word styles and why they matter, why using styles in Word is an invaluable tool for proposal management. So we talked in tips and tricks for proposal managers about styles, but I've known many proposal professionals who don't really know how to use them. They might know about them, but they don't really know how to use them. So this video is hopefully going to show you some of that. Because in most small businesses and even mid-tier government contractors, the proposal manager is usually the one who has to format the proposal in the end. I watched a senior proposal manager go through a proposal before White Glove and manually change every paragraph to the right font, the right justification, and the right spacing between paragraphs when he could have just applied a style with one click. In my experience, most proposal managers know about the headings styles, but not much else about styles. And hopefully, by the end of this video, I will have convinced you as to why knowing how to use styles can be life-changing. So once I've convinced you that Microsoft Word styles are the right thing for you, I want you to be sure to use styles in Word when you set up your proposal templates. These allow you to have consistency in formatting by applying the styles to text at each phase of the proposal process, not just at the end when you're trying to get to page count and all of the other things, but also along the way when you're doing pink team and red team and gold team. And they help you make the proposal look consistent, which can help with distractions from the reviewers of the proposals. So just something to keep in mind. They also allow you to match your company's brand by using the same colors as your brand. Most companies have a brand color sheet, blues and reds and greens and golds and whatever. You can use styles to set up your template to use the right colors for your company's brand rather than some generic blue that isn't the right blue for your brand. At a minimum, you should use the styles on the following pages. These are, again, the same styles that we talk about in the tips and tricks. So I'm just going to go through them relatively quickly, but then I'll talk about why and how to use them on the slides that follow. We recommend that you not use normal as your proposal text style. Rather, set up a proposal text style that you use for all the main text within the proposal. Usually this is set to Times New Roman 12 point because that's usually the default of what RFPs require. If your RFP allows you to use a different size or a different kind of font, then absolutely set your proposal text to that style. But in this way, as people are writing, you can format their writing using the proposal text style, and it will automatically be the right size and the right color and the right font. And then we also recommend putting a 6-point spacing after each paragraph so the paragraphs aren't all bunched together and look like one big run-on blob of text. Heading 1 is the default style within Word. We just recommend that you set it to match whatever your brand for your company is. So using a different color than the proposal text, maybe making the font size a little bit larger than 12 point, maybe using a different font than Times New Roman if you're allowed. And that way, the heading 1 style will match consistently throughout your proposal. Heading 2 and heading 3 are basically the same. So you can set automatic numbering on these, or you cannot set automatic numbering, depends on your personal preference. But these are ways that you can, again, make it so that your proposal will be consistent once it's formatted by using the styles. Generally, we recommend not getting down to the level headings of 4, 5, and 6. That often will break up the proposal too much and make it harder for the evaluators to follow your solution. So try not to use headings 4, 5, and 6, but generally speaking, it doesn't hurt to define them in ways that match your company's brand and the requirements of the RFP. There is a default word style called caption, but we recommend that you set up a figure caption. This is used for below a figure and a graphic, and you usually use 6-point spacing after. You can use the same font as proposal text, or if you're allowed to vary your font for tables, you can potentially use your figure caption as in the same font. It really depends on what your RFP requirements are, so be careful that way, but it's something to think about. You can use automatic coloring, or you can use one of your brand color. It's up to you, depending again on what your company's brand or what you're comfortable with. And often it's italicized. You can use the automatic numbering for figures if you want to. Um, I'm not going to explain how to do that because it's a pretty complicated explanation. But think about making all of your references consistent. So is it figure 1 or is it figure 1-1 and then figure number for the sections? Make it consistent throughout the proposal in the same way. Use a colon after the figure number or use a dash after the figure number, whatever you want to do for your brand, but be consistent throughout. If you use figure caption, then if you use a table of figures, you use that figure caption as the guide for the table of contents for the table of figures. And that way, all of your table of figures will show up in the right place. You won't have tables and figures in the same table. By the same token, you can have a table caption. Often you can use the default caption for the table caption because the default caption usually has space before it, which is what you want to have for a table. I would recommend that your table caption and your figure caption be formatted the same way. So whether that's automatic coloring or brand coloring, whatever the font is, whether it's italicized, and again, however you number your figures, you should number your tables the same way. So if you do table 1, table 2, table 3 throughout the whole proposal, that's fine. You can do that. Or you can number them within section, table 1.1-1. Whichever you do for figures, do for tables. Whichever you do for tables, do for figures. Be consistent. It looks more professional that way. Header is also a default word style. It's usually set up within the top 1-inch margin required for most government proposals. You put your company logo on one side and the RFP information on the other side of the header. Whichever way you want to do it, if you put your logo on the left and the RFP information on the right or vice versa, it's completely up to you in terms of your brand. But make sure that you're consistent across your proposal. So set up your header that way. The footer is also a default word style. Footers are set within that 1-inch margin as well. Most often, the footer includes the date. So the month, date, year goes on the far left. The page number goes on the far right. And then there's a standard disclaimer from the far that goes beneath those two elements. And here's the standard disclaimer is here. Use or disclosure of the data on this page is subject to the restrictions on the cover page of this proposal, where you'll have the far language also on the cover page. It's good to set up the table styles. So table design is a way to set up so that your tables will all be the same in terms of the colors. So the heading row would be the same. You could have every other row be a different color, however your company's brand is, but using table design allows you to then format a table reasonably instantly by just applying that table design as a default. If you don't know how to do that, you can look it up. It's a pretty complicated process, so I'm not going to describe it here. But table design is something that we recommend you put in all of your proposal templates. Table heading is what the font needs to be for the heading row of tables. Again, you have to follow whatever the RFP's instructions are in terms of what font you can use. And usually you do not include any spacing before or after because you are trying to use as little space as possible, but you can if you have the space to put it in. Table text and table bullet, again, are just standard defaults that you should set up for your tables. Table text would be whatever the RFP requirements are. So that may default to a Times New Roman font, but if you can use Arial or Arial Narrow or something like that, change the table text style to match whatever font you're allowed to use. Again, this makes formatting easier at the end of the process. Callout heading and callout text are what we used for callout boxes. Usually, callout boxes are just a little graphic box, maybe with a line around it, whatever your brand you want to set up. But if you set up a default calling heading, callout heading, which is the font and the color that you want the callouts to have consistently, and callout text, again, whatever you want for consistency, then you can use those for formatting along the way. Remember, as much as we want them to, authors will generally default to whatever they're comfortable with or wherever they got the text from previously. So we're trying to make things as easy as possible when you're formatting the proposal by having all of these styles in place. We recommend using the style bullet rather than list paragraph or whatever the default that shows up in Word often. You can format your bullet in a variety of ways. You can use the standard circle, or you can use a square or a dash or whatever you want to do that would be your company's brand. We also recommend that you create a bullet last style. What you do with this style is you put 6 points after, and that way you don't have to remember to go in and fix the last bullet of every bullet list that you have, but also you don't have to put in a hard return after each bullet list and saves a little bit of space. The last style here is graphic. Generally, we put graphics in a table where your graphic is in the first cell of the table. Your graphic caption or figure caption is in the second row of the table. And then you use the graphic to take the space around the graphic away. If you create a table, it'll just use the default normal setting, which may or may not have any space taken away. So you could just create a style that's called graphic. You take all of the space before and after the text away, and then the graphic will take up as minimal amount of space as possible. So now that we've talked about all the styles that you likely want to set up in your template, we'll talk about how you use them when you're formatting. We talked about this to some extent when we talked about the styles themselves, but we're going to just sort of reinforce that here. So you want to apply proposal text to all regular text in your proposal, even text that purportedly already is that style when you're finally doing your final formatting. Chances are good that your proposal team has pulled writing from other proposals and other documents, and that text may or may not be in the required font or your company's brand for justification and color, etc. Some authors try to cheat by condensing the font so their text fits into the page limits. However, that's probably non-compliant, but also can be hard to spot. So applying the proposal text style allows you to fix that non-compliant challenge. Applying this style will ensure that the text is all in the required font, complying with the RFP's instructions in section L of the proposal instructions, assuming that you've set up your proposal text style correctly. There are the various heading styles. We talked about those. Double check that the headings in your proposal match what you had in your original outline. Authors sometimes accidentally change your heading style from a 2 to a 3 or a 3 to a 2. So that can screw up what your compliance looks like. It can screw up what your table of contents is going to look like. So just double check that your heading styles are correct and apply them again if you need to. And you can use the heading styles to automatically number your sections as we talked about. This is what I call step 1 in formatting a proposal that's professional looking. Apply table caption or just the caption style to make the font and the spacing consistent for all of the table captions. Remember that will apply a 6-point before the caption to create separation between the proposal text that comes before the table and the caption itself. If you use table caption style consistently, then you can also use that style to generate a table of tables as part of your table of contents. Similarly, if you use figure caption to make the font and spacing used on all your figure captions consistent, then remember that will apply a 6-point after the caption to create separation between the caption and the proposal text that follows. Because remember, figure captions go below the figure, so they go above what text comes next. If you use the figure caption styles consistently and have set it up differently than the table caption style, then you can use that style to generate a table of figures at the beginning of your proposal. This is step 2 in ensuring that your proposal looks professional. So there are different levels of table styles. I would say that most companies have the standard. They have a table text style, a table bullet style, and a table heading style. Table bullets is what you're going to use for, your standard table text that you set up as being compliant with whatever the RFP requirements are. Remember that your authors have likely brought in tables from other documents, or they've just created a table however they want to. So make sure that you use the table text style for your tables to make them consistent and compliant with whatever the RFP requirements are. Same with table bullet, right? If they've brought in tables from other documents, they may have a completely different style of bullet than the style of bullet that you want for your brand. So make sure that you apply the table bullet style, and that will make sure that all of your bullets are the same, whether that's square or round or something else, whatever you want your brand to be. Table heading is usually for the top row of tables. It's usually a white font against a dark background in keeping with whatever your company's brands are. Again, these 3 styles, table bullet, table text, and table heading, you likely have defined in your template. I'm just reminding you that when you're formatting at the end of the process or along the way for your color teams, you need to reapply those standard styles to your text. A more complex table style is the table design style. This is at the whole table level. It's not a style that's found on the home page, but is its own category. As you see when you're working on a table, there a second menu pops up that's called table design. You can learn how to set up a table design with different names for different tables for the heading rows and all the different kinds of banding that you might want to do. Again, it's an advanced level style. I'm going to show you some examples of how you set up or what a table design might look like. But if you set up a table design, it can save you hours of formatting each individual table if you just apply your standard table design to all the tables that are created for your proposal. So this is the standard table design that most companies set up. I call it company 1 table design. You'll see there's company 2 and company 3. So in this case, we have a table caption in front of it. We use the table caption style for that caption. But then we have table heading for that top row. Again, a white text across a dark background. In this case, the company's brand was blue. So that's the right blue for this company. Then you have table text, table bullet, and you apply the banding, right? So most tables, we like to see that banding because it makes it easier for people to see what's in what row versus what's in another row. And it makes it easier on the evaluator's eyes. So in this case, we've applied banding for every other row as a light shading of gray. So company 2 table design, the only thing we really did here was change the heading colors For perhaps if you're going to do maybe a second level table, a table that breaks down a previous table in some more complex way. Here, we've used that sort of shading of the banded rows as our background for our headings, and we've made our table heading 1 the dark blue. So again, we're getting into really complex options, but if you want to do a more than one kind of table design, I'm giving you the option that I'm telling you that you can set that up. Company 3 table design is one that we had set up for resumes. So you can see that the table goes the opposite way. It's not a vertical horizontal table, it's a vertical table. So table heading 1 is down the left-hand side. And then our table text, where we're going to say, you put your RFP requirements in table heading 1, and then you put how the person meets or exceeds those requirements as an example in the right-hand column. Again, make sure that you're using the right fonts and the right table text, but that's another way that you can set up a table design that you may want to use over and over and over again in your templates. And like I said, you can have multiple table designs. In this case, we had 3. We had company table design 1, that was our standard. We had company 2 table design that was for not used all that frequently, but sometimes when we had more levels of complexity of tables. And then we company 3 table design that we used for resumes. We talked about call out heading and call out text in the list of styles that you're going to set up for your template. Again, you just want to apply your call out heading across your proposal. You want to apply your call out text across your proposal so that your brand is the same, consistent across the proposal. Your authors have likely done whatever they wanted to do, and you want to make it consistent. So apply the style call out heading to the headings of all of your call outs. Apply the style call out text. You can even have a call out bullet if that's something that you need to use. That way, everything is consistent across the proposal once you're done formatting. You can even create more than one type of call out. And maybe you have a call out for win themes, and maybe you have a call out for proof points, and maybe you have a call out for kudos. And you might have a different call out heading style, whether it's a win theme or a proof point or a kudos, to draw attention to the evaluators so they can understand, oh, this is a win theme versus a proof point versus a kudo. It's just another way to sort of create more interesting proposal formatting. We recommend using a small table for callouts as opposed to a text box, because text boxes tend to migrate away from where they were meant to be as you do your formatting. Whereas if you use a table, usually it's 2 rows, the callout heading is 1 row, and the callout text is the 2nd row, or the callout bullets is the 2nd row. And that way, if you make the text wrap around it and put it on the right margin, sometimes maybe you want to put it on the left margin or vary back and forth within your proposal if you have a lot of call out boxes. It's just an easy way to do a call out rather than using a text boxes, because like I said, text boxes tend to migrate, whereas a table usually won't. Again, using a style called bullet rather than the generic list paragraph. Again, you apply the style for bullets to all of your bullets rather than whatever your authors did, to make everything consistent, to make all of your bullets square or all of your bullets round, or whatever you have picked for your template. The same applies for the margin, right? So most of the time we start with a 0.25 left margin so that your bullet is a 1/4 of an inch from the left-hand margin. And then if you've done it right and you've used the bullet consistently, the bullet style consistently across your document, one of the things you can do as you're pressed for space is change that 0.25 inches left to 0.0. It will make your bullet style go flush to the left margin, which can give you some more space. And it changes all of the bullets in the document at the same time. So that's the beauty of the bullet style. As I said, we also recommend a style called bullet last. It should be based on, so when you're setting it up, you want to base it based on bullet. That way, any changes you make to the bullet style also apply to the bullet last style. So if you change the font or you change the actual bullet style from round to square or whatever, and the margin spacing, all of that carries over into the bullet last style. But then you can put that 6-point space after, so you don't have to use a line return. And again, that can save you space in the long run. When you're running out of space in a proposal, these are the kinds of things that can save you so much time and energy and formatting. So again, I hope that by now I've convinced you that styles are your friend and to learn how to use them. If you learned something from this video, please click the thumbs up button. It really helps us to understand what resonates with the folks on our channel. Click on the bell to become a subscriber and be notified when other videos come out. And thank you for your time.